I am Anita Finkelstein. I'm the co-host of Career Up Now. It's Wisdom Wednesdays, and today we have with us Rachel Andrea Cohen. I think she uses all three names. And she's been a dancer, a consultant. Now I find out she's a massage therapist as well. And it's good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business.
My name is Rachel Cohen. You can call me Rach, and I'm with Cadence Arts Network, Inc. Been in the business for over 30 years. I'm a network. I like to connect people, help people out in the arts, and it's been a really wonderful journey for me, always learning new things. Currently, I have about 20 artists on the roster. Going through COVID has been, pretty devastating in terms of work. But I'm very hopeful. We're starting to come out of it. Theaters are going to start opening up and we'll start working again. A lot of my artists worked virtually and virtual concerts and things like that. And, I just keep working. I've always worked for myself from my office since I started my business. So, going through this pandemic was not difficult for me to transition to doing what I already do, being in the office. But it's been a great journey. I have a lot of energy and I'm looking forward to the future, and have been working hard to sort of maintain and now hopefully push forward and see what we can do in the future.
Tell me a little bit about your background, like where you grew up and how you got into dance, because that's sort of like directed your life at this point.
We moved around a lot, and as a kid from the East Coast to the Midwest, to the West Coast, and then down to LA. I got there very early at 8 years old. I had always loved dancing. My little sister and I would put on shows for my parents, which a lot of kids do, dance shows. And I just loved dancing so much. We did not have enough money to send me to dance class. And finally, my mother, when I was in 6th grade, had the money to send me to a dance class where I took tap dance. That's what I did. And I loved that a lot. She sent me to a very well-known ballet school in Woodland Hills. And I was in 6th grade and I was a beginner. They put me in a class with 2nd graders. And I was very uncomfortable with that. So I didn't hang out with ballet long at that point. But always I'd love dancing. There was no dance in my high school. So some friends and I got together. We decided to create a dance show, a high school dance show. And we got a PE teacher to help us create a dance class. And she didn't know anything about dance. So she would buy these records that would say, step, hop, turn, hop, step, prepare, jump. Okay, I remember that, just came out of the blue there. And so we would basically teach each other, and she helped teach this dance class. And I was very into musicals. I love musicals. My parents played musicals on the record player all the time. I started choreographing all the musicals at my high school. So dancing and choreographing. So it was great. And I loved it a lot. My dad said I had to be a nurse when I went to college. So I wanted to dance, but I also loved French, and I also loved psychology, and I already loved connecting people and talking to people about their problems, and I already loved that. So I kind of went in as a French and psychology kind of double major. But you want me to tell you how I actually got into dancing finally?
Yeah, because my mother was adamant that I be a teacher, and no.
I was teaching dance to kids on my block in high school, when I was in high school. Just remember that. Thank you. But I was at UCLA, and I was visiting my friend Anne at her dance class. She said, come to my dance class and we'll have lunch. The door will be closed, but just poke in the door and you'll see what we're doing. So I always tell the story. I found the room, I opened the door, and as I opened the door, the teacher, Gary Bates, was doing barrel turns across the diagonal, and he ended up in my face, spitting in my face, which during COVID would have been terrible, but he's like, that's what you have to do to have passion, to be a dancer. And I went, oh, okay.
You must do this.
So we went to lunch and I'm like, I was all shaken. I went to the dance department and I said, I really have, before I talked to my dad, I said, I have to be a dance major. Gary Bates just told me, if you have passion, that's what you have to do. So mid-semester, I became a dance major. And that's when I had I had trouble adjusting because I came in midstream. The teachers were kind of upset. They kind of left me alone that year. It's not that, it's just that I interrupted. And she told me later, the teacher who I had for my first year, I said, I just want to ask you, and this was just like 3 or 4 years ago. I said, why did you ignore me? She gave me good grades. She goes, I had nothing to teach you. I said, what are you talking about? You taught me this, that. I didn't know what I was doing. She goes, well, it certainly looked like you knew what you were doing. I mean, I faked it,
Yeah.
but I didn't, I was always very insecure. And that's when I took a ballet class and the teacher told me to get out of her class because of my body type. And I was forced to take the class because it was a university, not a studio, and I needed the credits. And after 2 weeks, she told me, she's this Russian ballerina. She told me, come in, stand in front of the class. Okay, Rachel is now going to be your TA. It's like I was now a demonstrator. And so it was quite interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like you surprised everybody, including yourself, continually.
Yeah, well, I did not at the time. Now dancers nowadays have all body types. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Dancers at that time had, when you couldn't have, you had to be completely thin, no curves, and all I was curves, and I was a little overweight at the time, always struggling. But I ended up, again, they didn't have a dance performance for undergrads. So some friends and I got together and we created undergrad performances. UC Movement, we called it UC Movement Theater. And I think it still exists to this day. I'm not sure. But, I danced and choreographed in musicals. And I was in a musical my first semester, and I danced for a very long time in different companies and everything like that after school. It was fun.
Yeah, it sounds to me like it's interesting. I wrote this when I was writing your questions, that I wrote, it was a brave decision. And now that I'm actually hearing it, it was like your parents didn't want you to do it. The teachers told you couldn't do it. It's like, I feel like it was very brave of you to just say, I love dance. I'm going to keep doing this.
If dancers, you can't do anything else. It's such a passion. You have to do it. It's just, I couldn't do anything else. I sat down with my dad when I said I went to the dance department, and I sat down with him and my mom had a nice argument that, and it was the first time I ever talked back to my father. Actually, it was when I was 18. And I said, this is my life. This is what I want to do. Please support me. And that sounds so 2021. This was so long ago. It was like 1974 or something.
What are you going to do with this degree? What are you going to do with the dance degree? Like, how are you going to support yourself?
Exactly. He was so worried about it. And I worked all through college. We couldn't afford to extend me to college. So I worked and I ended up teaching college and, teaching exercise, and it was great. That's what I did when I graduated college. It was wonderful, and danced in a bunch of companies. So it was really fun.
So, what made you start this, the Cadence Art Network? Because you had it for a really long time. You got you kind of accomplished what, you did what you set out to do. You became a dancer. You did, you were in different companies. I know you won some awards. Like, why did you say, okay, now I'm going to do something that's like more of like a business? It sounds like you were trying to promote performing arts.
It's kind of like we had a community visit by a really well-known choreographer whose name I will not mention, from New York, who sat with our group at UCLA. And this was already when I was, I think I was just I was in grad school or something. And she said, if you want to be a dancer, you have to get out of LA. There are no dance companies here. You'll never amount to anything. You really have to go to New York. And I was like, I'm already dancing in 5 dance companies. this is crazy. That I said, but I'm already dancing. And again, I was very shy, not like now. So I was like, excuse me, but we do have dance. I'm dancing with this company, this company, this company, and there's, we had Bella Lewitsky at the time, huge company, Los Angeles Ballet, and there were lots and lots and lots of companies. And so what I did was I decided to create, I went to the city of Los Angeles and I decided to create a little management company. And we had a dance resource center then. We got together and I got a few dance companies together. And I decided, to start that. During this time, a friend, one of the dance companies, a friend of mine who had a dance company, not one of these special companies, said that her commercial agent went to booking conferences and he was looking for someone to help him at the booking conferences. Would I please, call him if I was interested and I could help her and all everything. So I went, and for 2 years I worked with an agent who booked people that a lot of people at the time didn't know. Sting was on his roster, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. But a lot of the presenters who are the buyers for the venues didn't know who Sting was at the time. It was he was already very famous, but they usually book artsy fartsy kinds of things as opposed to commercial things. Completely changed now. It's completely changed now. Anyway, so I did that for 2 years, then did it for myself for a couple years, and worked for an agency for a couple years. And then I decided I'm just going to continue on by myself. And so that's what I did to this day. I'm still doing it. And I had another business that helped me be able to afford to do this, because the money doesn't really come in for a while.
Right.
And that business was a wonderful business. That kept
How
me
long,
going.
was there a moment when you felt like this is working? Like I have the career I've always wanted, and I'm making enough money. Like how long did that take until you were like, okay, this is going to work?
I don't know if I ever thought that. I mean, or even thought to think that, but I was doing it. And when I would listen to people say, "Oh, I hate my job," or da da da, I couldn't say that. I was like, "Oh, I have a great job. I have two great jobs." I love what I'm doing, and it didn't. I mean, I just kept plowing through it, and I was always surprised when other people would assess me, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've been doing this a long time. This is really great." Or even in the beginning, "Yeah, I haven't been doing this for this long, but I'm doing a lot of work and I'm getting paid for it. It's pretty good."
And people keep calling me. Like that's what it took me a long time before. Like now, like I know I'm good at what I do, and so but I didn't always. Like I realized it after a while that I don't have to second guess anything I turn in to a client and be like, oh my God, I have this new job. Like I turned in my first project and we had a meeting and I was like, oh my God, what are they going to say for the feedback? And they were like, this is great. But I know that I don't have that fear anymore like I used to. Thinking,
well, I always thought I was doing things wrong. I didn't have a business degree at all.
Yeah.
and I probably still do things wrong, and it just kills me when I do.
What are your biggest challenges then? Like what in running a business? It's like you said, you're a dancer, you're an artist, but now you run a business.
Well, learning how to do contracts, learning to the protocols and things like that. I'm also dyslexic, so being fearful that would be a big problem, and it wasn't. I'm more dyslexic now as I get older, but it's sort of even went away for a while. But it's just that I've always had this feeling. I still have this feeling. I keep trying to tell myself to stop thinking this way. I know I'm doing enough in terms of physically doing the work, but I'm not getting enough work for my artists, especially in the pandemic and things like that. I'm not giving them enough.
Yeah, and I think everybody's kind of struggling with that. Like you're just you're stuck. Like there's only so much you can do, but you're like, come on, there's got to be more. There's got to be. It's getting better. I think it's getting better. So
Yeah, but yes, where someone will say, well, why don't you do it this way? I have to say, a silver lining with the pandemic is a lot of the other people I work with, my colleagues who do similar things to me, have been extremely helpful and open about how they do things. Why don't you try this? Hey, I just learned how to do this. Or why don't you call this person? I started my business because I'm a networker, a natural matchmaker, and I love putting people together. And I always try to find people work. If someone's out of a job, they'll call me and I'll say, oh, let me try to find you this. Let me try to find you that. But it's been very, very full of heart, this, how much people are willing to help each other right now. It's really great.
yeah, I think that it's true. It's like, it's everybody's kind of struggling, and we have to lift each other up, and we just do. So I read that I know you taught dance, but I read that you do a lot of lecturing and coaching with artists. So you must have certain pieces of advice that you tell them over and over. What would you say? Like, what do you like kind of advice do you find yourself giving most often to people, that are just, struggling or they don't know what to do or how to get that next job or that first job?
Well, it's always keep redefining what you want, is because you grow as you grow as you go through life. I say make goals for yourselves and toss the goals out if it's not working for you. That you don't have to reach a goal that you set for yourself 4 years ago if it's not right anymore. I always tell people to persevere. And, I really think that this is like something that's like, I'm sort of coining, but life is full of obstacles.
Right.
And so I'm a choreographer. And so I say, you got to choreograph through the obstacles. So if you don't, and I'm going to get up and dance right now, but so let's see you hit a barrier. So let's go over here and do this. Oh, well, let's go over here and do that. And so I call it choreographing through the obstacles, and, be patient with yourself and just follow your heart. And my uncle says, he still says, finish what you start. I say, yes, to a degree, but if what you started isn't working for you, tweak it, move it, do something different.
If it's not the direction you want to go, then go around it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm always like I find myself reinventing myself because of things keep changing. Like, I was a writer. I loved, I worked for a newspaper and a magazine, and then I worked freelance, but the internet came and everybody was a writer, kind of like when, the iPhone came and everybody's a photographer. So they don't stop paying writers as much. It's like you keep having to like sort of kind of, but like I think you said, I don't know what word you used, but it's kind of like, you have to evolve based on, what people are looking for, but stay true to the things you love. But they're always going to be there in some shape or form.
So I had to stop dancing because I broke my back, and when I was healed, I was always the dance company or even when I was a student, rubbing people's shoulders. So I decided to go to massage school, and from that, I started working with someone who started doing work on movie sets. So, and that's around that time I decided many, many years ago, this is when I had the meeting also with the person who said, you have to move to New York. I went to that meeting. So I decided to do both of these jobs at the same time. And I used to make enough money to support myself. Money is a really big obstacle in the beginning when you're starting a business. So I would make money doing that and filter it in, and, sit in an actor's trailer when they went on set. I would do my Cadence Arts Network business. And when they came back to set, we'd have a discussion. So how's Cadence going today? And whatever, I would do my other job. And it was a lovely, lovely number of years. And both businesses just started to grow. It was just amazing. Just amazing. Very lucky.
I think that's, that just sounds like everything kind of happened the way it was supposed to. I'm sure it didn't always, and things. Do you have an accomplishment you're most proud of today?
I think that I'm still here and that I'm still working. I wish my hands didn't give out. I loved that job. that massage job. But I'm so happy. I think I love to help people. And that's my main, like a big passion of mine is helping people, networking and connecting them. And I'm able to do that, not successfully all the time, but I'm able to at least try to do that. I've created a business for myself, so I can try and do that.
I'm always surprised. I think, and you might feel this way. I forget the number of people I connect, and like I will see somebody years later, and they'll be like, you got me my first job, or you got me that internship, or you made that phone call for me. You told me to call that person. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. Like I totally forget because it's just something that I do kind of like you, like as a natural thing. Like I have people saying, you need to get paid for this. But like, I just, I compartmentalize things in my head when somebody says, oh, I'm looking for this or I need this, So you probably have helped a lot more people than you even know.
I was just surprised because I'm always just doing. Don't think about, I love to help people, but I'm not thinking, okay, I helped that person. Oh, I helped that person. Good me. I'm so good.
Yeah.
A student of mine came back from El Camino College, came back to visit my class after about 3 years or something. And I was like, oh, how are you? It's so great. I said, I've been seeing you dancing on TV. Good for you. He goes, he said, I just want to come back and thank you, because if you hadn't pushed me along and done this and done that in your classes, I wouldn't be where I am today. And it was only like a few years later. It wasn't like, 20 years later or anything. And I was shocked. And I'm getting chills right now too. It was the nicest thing any student could ever do for their teacher, but it also made me realize I made a difference. So, we all make a difference in people's lives. It makes me feel good.
Yeah, but that is the best feeling, like saying, I had this impact. Did you have a mentor growing up? Is there anybody that like impacted you that way, that helped you? Like, because like you said, you started a dance class in high school. You organized dance. Like, it seems like you like saw needs even then you saw the need to promote the LA dance companies. Like you see these needs, and then you're like, I'm gonna fix this problem. But like,
that's
like you that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The person who when you ask a mentor, the person who pops in my head is that Gary Bates who was spitting in my face. It's not that he took me under his wing. He was just, he was very inspiring. His passion rubbed off. Mm-hmm. And we remained friends until he passed. And he was always just amazing. But also the people who hired me to work with their agency.
Gary, you actually took classes from Gary. After that,
he was the sophomore core teacher. So I took his class the following year after my freshman year. I took his class for a year. And then when I worked with Linda Chiavaroli and David Rosenblum with United Arts, I used to go to their house drive at 6:30 in the morning. And then I used to be on the phone till I think 10:30 or noon or something like that and make phone calls back in the day when you didn't have emails and stuff. And so I did that for a couple of years until I rung up their phone bill so high they had to let me go, which is understandable. It's not like today cell phones are so inexpensive.
Yeah, I know. We used to have long distance churches.
Right, exactly. And so, they've helped me throughout. If I ever had a question, they would help me. We're still friends to this day as well. So it's great.
So why did you join Career Up Now? Was it just that same thing, that passion for helping?
Well, they called me and they said, do you want to be a mentor? And I said, I am a mentor. So I do. I'm a mentor for all the booking conferences that I attend, and I teach and consult young artists and young presenters, or help try to fix problems. I help mediate. So I said, sure, I'll do this. It sounds really cool. I think it's a great organization because people sometimes need some help.
Yeah.
Or advice, or would like advice. Not necessarily you need, but maybe would like some extra.
Yeah. I just feel like when you get out of college, unless you have a very defined, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be an accountant, like if you don't have that defined role, it's like you're sort of like out there and you're like, where do I begin? And if you're going into dance, you're just like, I can imagine, or theater, or it can be very intimidating. And so to have somebody say, okay, just calm, we can do this. must.
It's blossomed into like specific things, like international artists who want to get to the United States. How do we do that? I do these hour-long consults with them, or presenters, the buyers for the theaters. I don't know anything about dance. Can you tell me what dance companies might be great? And I do that in more of a quiet manner because I am objective about things. I'm not pushing my artists, artists that are on my roster. I want to do what's best for the presenter. So it's that's done more on a quiet basis. But it's all these different little problems come up, or I can't get in touch with this person. Can you call them for me? Or, little things like that. And I'm like, sure, give me a project. I'm working with my own artists, trying my best, but I'm also trying to help. If people just come to me, I don't seek them anymore. I don't go out and look for people.
Right, I can imagine.
I do that for years. So they're calling me. And sometimes I have to say, I'm sorry, I'm only one person. I can only do one at a time.
There's only so much we could do in a day. That's how I feel. I've had to learn to accept that. I sometimes used to just overbook myself because I want to do more.
I used to take interns in a lot from universities and colleges and teach them every semester and reteach, but it took so much time from me doing my own business. I realized after a while, let's talk for an hour and then.
Yeah, I'll help you. I'll give you advice. But yeah, it's it sounds like you've sort of like crafted a very like unique career for yourself, where you're like a specialist.
Kind of weird. I had, after 10 years of doing networking and saying, I am not an agent. One of my dear friends who was a presenter said, just call yourself an agent, even if it's not on the books, because you have to have your hands in everything. Just call yourself, in this part of the business, just call yourself an agent, because it's too confusing.
People understand that.
Yeah. So he was right.
Thanks. See, well, sometimes you got some good advice.
Yeah.
Not the best piece of advice you've ever gotten? No.
I get advice. Daily open my eyes and I learn something new every day. It's not the best piece of advice is just to follow your passion, follow your dreams. That's, stick to what you want to do. Stick what gives you juice in the morning. Stick to what you love. If you can try to always get back to what you love. If you can't, if you deviate.
Is dance still your first love, or like, is it still an important part?
I love to dance. I can't dance the way I used to. I love to hike now, so I'm a big hiking fan. I try to walk 5 to 7 miles a day. But I really do love dance. I love music. I love theater. I love all the arts. I love it all, and I work with people from all factions. So it's been it's always interesting. It's never boring. I don't understand boring. How people can say they're bored. I never could understand that. It's always, I have a list of 400 things to do, and I can barely get through that list. I just don't understand boring.
I know. I love the concept of binge watching Netflix, but it's never going to happen. I can't lay on a couch that long. I'm like, what do I?
Yeah, but I multitask, so, which I'm not as good at as I used to be. But if I used to multitask doing that, so it was okay. It made it interesting. Did you see that on TV? Oh no, wait, I was just closing. I was just doing something.
I missed that part. You've got so much energy and enthusiasm, and I love that you kind of always kind of like took the reins, and you're like, I'm going to do this. I mean, even with your dad, who's like, you're going to be a nurse. You're like, I'm going to be a dancer, and if there's not dancing.
I'm not kidding, but it's, there's a lot of things I want to be that I can't be, or a lot of things that I'd like to do that I can't do, or that I know I can't do, or that I know it would take a long time for me to do. So why start it now? There's so much in the world I want to do. I mean, work with animals, I haven't ridden a horse since I was so much younger. I want to get back to horses, there's lots of stuff to do.